Welcome back to the channel. My name is Adam Smith, and inside this Kickstarter preview, I am very excited to be showing you gameplay for Don't Starve the board game coming from Glass Cannon Unplugged. This is landing on Kickstarter in the very near future. If you want to find the exact date as well as the campaign page link, I've got it for you in the pinned comment and video description. Now, for those of you that haven't checked out my prototype unboxing, which has already released, I'll put a link to it in the top right-hand corner right now. It's a great video for checking out every single component that came as part of the prototype up close, in case it doesn't show up during gameplay right now. Don't Starve the board game is a cooperative survival adventure for 1 to 4 players. You can absolutely control multiple characters or play true solo, and that's exactly how I'll be playing today with just a single character. It's set in the dark and whimsical world where science and magic clash in strange and deadly ways. It's based on the award-winning video game series where players take on the roles of iconic characters and work together to explore dangerous biomes, fight terrifying monsters, create essential gear, and just try to stay alive. The game unfolds through a series of scenarios, each with different objectives, layouts, and challenges for you. With limited resources and evolving threats, no 2 games you play will ever be quite the same. Surviving a scenario unlocks new structures, items, and recipes, which allow your team, or if you're playing true solo, just your character, to grow stronger over time through a roguelike progression system. In this game, you're going to be exploring, fighting, and surviving, but most importantly, don't starve. Everything you see here in terms of gameplay and components is subject to change and not in its final form. In the demo, there is one scenario, and it's called Feast of the Pig King. This is the one we'll be diving into together in just a moment, but first, let's just go over a high-level understanding of everything laid out here before gameplay begins. When a scenario is chosen to be played, you'll draw a card off the top of the scenario deck, and it's going to give you the full layout of how that's supposed to look in terms of the game world, and also what types of biome locations are supposed to be part of that deck, and the difficulty level as well. We've already set this up randomly, so I have no idea what is in what location. These are just representing the different biomes or environments to explore within the game world. In the very center, we have the portal tile where our character begins. Now, I'm playing true solo, so I selected my character already, but you'll have a handful of starting characters to select from, and each one will be unique in terms of how it is set up. When you get your character selected, you will have a standee or miniature to represent them. I'm using the standees, it's a little more colorful, but a miniature is an option for this game as well. And you'll see a card specific to your character, Wilson in this case, and the stats at the top left, 8, 8, and 8, for health, hunger, and sanity. And that's across the 3 dials. Make sure that these numbers match the numbers off of this card. Take any additional cards with the emblem of the character you've selected in the top left-hand corner. So in this case, we have beard growth and transmutation. Each character will have their own cards that come along with them that have abilities and different timing for effects to trigger. For instance, here the preparation says move the beard marker 1 space to the right. So essentially you're tracking the growth of your beard as time goes on, and as the length of your beard grows, you're going to actually have a resistance to freezing in Wilson's case. Now, transmutation is a handy ability here that states, spend 2 resources to gain 1 resource token from the common supply that has at least 1 available replacement option, and then each spent resource must match at least 1 of the replacement options for the resource gain, and then you actually gain back some sanity on top of it. Now, you'll notice a couple icons on the cards here, and inside the icons, they're different in terms of how they look. This one has kind of a stripe pattern through it, which essentially is a passive ability. So during the preparation phase, that's when you'll move the marker. This one here that is hollowed out but has black in the back is basically a free action. So essentially, you can take that free action if you have the axe created to spend all of your beard length, and for each you spend, you're going to gain back a sanity as well as gain some resources. And that free action usage applies over here to transmutation as well. Now, something worth noting on the dials, they're not just tracking the numbers, there's also effects that happen around the dial. So there will be impacts as your sanity diminishes, for example, or your hunger begins to take over, or of course you start losing health. Different effects will occur to your character. We'll talk more about this as it happens during gameplay. As you'll see on your character's card, there's also a focus value, which tells you how many focus tokens you're going to get. These tokens can be used for rerolls. And last but not least, for your character, you'll want to ensure that you have your character die nearby. I remember earlier when I showed you the map layout for this particular scenario, and in the dead center there was a tile with a portal icon on it, and my standee is currently there for my character. Well, that portal icon is right here, and this is known as the home base board. So when you're on that tile in the middle of this scenario, you have access to these different upgrades across the home base, and I was able to select these as part of this demo scenario. So I've got these three options. You're going to see a cost in the top right hand corner to make use of them. It's going to cost you essence, which is a limited resource, but you can actually get it back. As we go through the game, we'll find nightmare fuel, and when we do, we can actually use the nightmare fuel to power up our essence of our home base. Here we have a pile of monster dice. We'll certainly be making use of these, and I'll talk more about it when we get into gameplay. This right here is the action dial. We'll be keeping track of how many actions we've gone through inside of a given round. 6 is what it's set at to start things off, and this is the round board. When we go through a round, we go through 6 phases, and we'll be using this marker here to determine which phase we're currently in. You'll notice that this is currently on phase number 2, and that's because when you start things off, you don't do the preparation phase, you skip right past it on the very first round. And for this scenario known as the Feast of the Pig King, we're told to use this winter weather setup card. You'll see it's winter as it shows in the top left-hand corner, that snowflake icon. You'll also see 3 rows of needs tiles. These needs tiles are set up on the round board, which is behind us, and I'll show you that in a second. But when you're playing the game for the first time, it's recommended to use the normal row and then progress up for enhanced difficulty. Now, it's worth mentioning the differences are going to be light tiles or light needs tiles are going to be easier than darker ones. You'll notice they start to get increasingly more dark as it goes down the difficulty. Also, you'll notice that the storm is going to occur earlier than it would if you were playing on the easier difficulty levels. Now, as we head back to the bottom half of the round board and take a look at the needs tiles as they were set up, essentially when you do set them up, you'll have stacks of light, stacks of dark, and on either side, they're double-sided. One is the day side, one is the night side. So again, depending on what the setup card tells you to do in terms of day versus night, so the very first one should be day, the next 2 should be night, and so on, you go through and set them up. They'll be randomized in a way so that every single time you play, they might be in different positions even in terms of the icons. So as gameplay goes along within a round, and we get to phase 4, where we have to deal with the needs tile that's on the furthest left side, that is going to have negative impacts to our characters, or potentially something we need to mitigate, like darkness. Next up is the weather deck, which is determined again by the icon that comes straight off the card for the given scenario, which is winter in this case. So we take all those weather winter cards, shuffle them together, and draw one face up. As we go through the round, we get to phase number 5. We'll be dealing with weather, and that will have us looking at this card. But you want to take a look at the card in advance to see what kind of things you need to resist or deal with as you go through your given round. Because if you don't, they can come back to bite you pretty bad. So in this case, it's going to be freezing that we need to deal with. We want to try to craft things that might help us with that. Maybe get fires going. Maybe use something from our home base to reduce the number of those icons. So how many icons will affect us? Well, it depends on where the needs tile currently resides. Does it reside on the left-hand side of the storm or the right hand side of the storm in terms of what's going on with the round board? So based on that, it will let you know how many of these icons you have to resist. So early on in gameplay, it's just going to be the 2 icons to the left of the storm because we're on the left hand side of the storm from the round board. So if we do not resist those 2 icons, then they are going to go into this column and be times by 3 because there's 2 of them, which multiplies the pain that's coming your way. And then you're going to have health hits and you're going to have hunger hits at a higher level. So you want to try and reduce as many of those as possible. Obviously, if you get to a point in the game when you're on the right-hand side of the storm and you deal with all of the symbols here, if you had 4 of the frost icons in here, you'd be timesing it by 8, and at that point, you're taking some serious hits. Last but not least, on the weather card on the bottom right-hand corner, there might be a number of world events that trigger, like spoiling all your food, regrowth of the different areas around the game board, or even a monster spawn. Now, as you explore through the game, there'll be different types of biomes you're going to run into. So when you move into a new board, you'll flip it over. If you choose to explore, you then come to this tray here and you take the matching biome type, whether it's woodlands, grasslands, drylands, or wetlands. And you can also look at the artwork on the front of the top card because it might give you an indication of things you may find there. It will also let you know if you're going to gain something for free. We'll take an up-close look at one in a second. But as another option, you can choose blindly from the bottom of the deck as well if you don't like what's on the top. So this icon here represents the drylands, and you'll see it's rocky land. That's the environment that we're looking at here. Now, I could choose to explore using this card and know that it would gain some flint, and there's potential here for some other things I might run into that I might be interested in as you become more familiar with the resources, or if you're familiar with the video game, you're going to recognize some of these things right away. Now, if you don't like what you see here or don't want that particular resource, then again, you can just go to the bottom of the deck and draw blindly, but then you're at the mercy of whatever comes up. Now, this being a survival game, there is all kinds of crafting and creation going on inside the survival game. Things like basic resources you'll find, raw food, cooked food, monster tokens, special loot, character resources, and scenario monsters, all represented by these types of tokens. As you become more familiar with the game, you'll realize what things can be combined to create something else. You can also go to the crafting book, which we'll take a look at in a second, which will give you a heads up on what resources you need to create which things. But again, if you've played the video game before, you're going to know some of these combinations innately just from that experience, although I wouldn't be surprised if there's a couple differences along the way. As you go through the game and your sanity starts to tick down, the shadow creature decks are going to be used. Whether at level 1, 2, or 3, you'll have these shuffled and placed nearby to draw when they occur. Now, as I mentioned moments ago, there's a crafting book which will help you determine what resources will create which items. You can come inside of here and see that if we want to create this item right here, we need these 2 resources, and so on. You'll see exactly what they can provide you in terms of benefits, and this is going to be tracked throughout the entirety of gameplay and also be added to. Now, for the demo purposes, it's limited in terms of what is inside of here. In the final version, you'll have a set amount that you will start with, and as you unlock and continue through gameplay, things will unlock. You'll have a larger grouping of things that you can potentially create and craft. That's going to do it for the overview of the components set up on the table for the scenario Feast of the Pig King. Let's now read the narrative here on the scenario card to find out more about what we're going after. It says, you whoosh through the portal and blink at the light. Before you the Pig King reclines in delight. His subjects set tables, the banners hang high. A grand night of feasting is now drawing nigh. Our customs are ancient, his plumpness insists. You'll host this affair, no use to resist. Since you've just arrived, the task falls to you. The food must be perfect, so see the job through. In turn, he should grant you some nuggets of gold. You struck stranger bargains, if truth must be told. As it states right here, it tells us to place location S02 on the portal tile face up. It's this one right here. The card is called the Pig Feast, and it states, a circle of totems stands tall and burns bright to fend off the darkness that governs the night. Within all the pig folk shall shortly convene to guffin and gorge upon morsels obscene. Now, you remember this icon, we saw it on our character's card, we talked about it earlier. This time, though, it's filled in completely, and it says fulfill demand. So this is a full action it takes, and it says spend food and or resources listed on S03 bill of fare to place scenario markers on their matching empty spaces. Also on the scenario card, underneath the one we just revealed, it tells us to reveal S03 and S04, so we can now find out what that's all about. S03 is called Bill of Fare, and it says, for each completed line of 3 markers, vertical, horizontal, or diagonal, we gain a gold nugget. Now, as a major thing we need to focus on, it says, if the number of completed lines is fewer or equal to the number of characters, so 1 or none at all, then we're going to be increasing the marker, which is sitting on this card down below. We'll talk about this in a second. So our overall goal here when playing with just a single character true solo, and everything scales inside the game based on this icon right here, is that we just need to get 2 lines completed. So as I'm playing true solo, my marker is going to start on the furthest left-hand side in the 1 or 2 character spot, and it's going to move across here. And of course, it states right here, when the scenario marker reaches the end space with this, discard all other revealed scenario cards, including this, and reveal S06. Now, my guess is that that's not going to be a good thing, but maybe it'll just add something rough into the equation. I am not sure. I have not got that far. Now, the check for this in terms of the number of lines completed is going to happen in the 6th phase of every single round. So at the very end of every round, we'll be checking this. And that again, if we are underneath of 2 and we haven't completed at 1 or 0, this is going to continue to tick up each and every time. Now, if we do happen to actually fill in 2 lines, not only are we going to be gaining gold nuggets for each line completed, but on top of it, it says each character on location S02, which is the primary pig feast location on the portal tile here, gains 3 hunger back, or basically becomes less hungry, and gains 3 sanity back, and then you reveal a different card. So that's what we're aiming for. So now that we know what we're striving for, let's take a quick look at 2 reference cards that are very handy to have nearby before we jump into round number 1. And here they are, the round structure and a breakdown of the actions. So you'll see from a high level, it breaks down in bullet point form each of the phases. The preparation phase, which we're going to jump right past as we go into round number 1. We'll start in the action phase, then the shadow phase after that, followed by the daily needs phase, weather phase, and scenario phase, which again is going to be what we just talked about in terms of special effects for the scenario. Actions here are different things we can do on our turns. So this is characters take turns in any order. Doesn't matter when you're playing true solo. During your turn, the character may first perform a move action followed by 1 action, and these are the different types of actions you can do. Explore, you can interact, and there's a number of bullet points underneath each of them, and you can also fight or trade, and there's a number of free actions you can do like crafting, cooking, or resource processing. So now with that all understood, let's dive into our very first round of play, starting inside the action phase. And when your marker is on the actions phase, you'll also have a reminder underneath of just how many actions you get per character, which is 6. Now you'll notice on the action die, it is double-sided. There's a day side and there's a night side. So again, depending on the needs tile that you're currently on for the given round, in this case is day, you can have this dial on the right side. We should probably get on the move. We got lots to accomplish for the Pig King. We need to find specific ingredients from that chart of 9 that's available, trying to make 2 lines for him. We're also trying to resist cold as the weather coming up is going to impact us. So let's move down south. Now, when you're moving, you can choose to move to an adjacent tile, but you cannot move diagonal. So in other words, everything has to be orthogonal. This would be considered orthogonal going from here down to here, or here over to here, or here up to here, or here up to here, or over here, but you cannot go from this location down this location on a diagonal angle. You cannot do that. So let's go ahead and move to here. Now this biome location is known as the wetlands. It's actually pretty rough here. So as an action now after moving, because I can take one, I could choose to explore if I wanted to draw a card from the wetlands, and then it would drop in here and it would go ahead and place a token in this area that we could potentially interact with that area. But I don't know if I want to run into anything too rough right off the start. Now the top card of the wetlands is this one here, and you're always able to take a look to see if you'd be intrigued by it. It would provide some fireflies, and that certainly would help us with light, and there's potentially some grass here maybe or something else we could find, but I don't know again if I want to explore at this point. I'm going to choose to skip my action as I don't want to risk running into anything too nasty from the start. We're going to go ahead and tick this down to 5 and continue on with our turns. Let's move over to this location and see if we find something more intriguing. Ah, the grasslands. This seems a lot more calm and probably a better spot to start looking around for things. Now as an action, if I choose to explore this location, I will gain a tuft of grass. And I've chosen to do it, so let's gain that resource. Your character's backpack has a total of 10 slots. Let's go ahead and take this token and slot it in. And when you choose to explore something, not only are you flipping it over and gaining any free resource that might be on the back side of the card like I just did, you're also placing an exploitation marker in this exploit track here, which is basically representative of how many times you can interact with this card and gain something from it. And of course, once it's depleted at the very bottom, every time you interact, it drops down. And eventually you cannot interact with that card anymore unless a world event or something that happens within the game state actually brings it back up to a spot where you can again. Now the card tells you a number of things, and first off, there is an enemy here, but this enemy is a neutral one, as it shows the backdrop of this area right here where the sword is as gray, which basically means that this is a neutral enemy that will not come after you unless you come after it. If you happen to see red, then it's hostile and it will come after you right away. Now, as a future action, I could choose to interact with this space again. I would drop down this exploitation marker down 1 if I did, and options that I'd have would be something like Nature's Gift. Here I'd be going ahead and rolling a die to see whether I was successful in gathering a resource from this artwork depicted over here, and you'll see some artwork depicted over here for the rabbit hole in order to gain some things. We'll be able to gain some meat, for instance, and then we'd roll a die to see what else we gain from it. But before we do that one, if we chose that as the interact, you have to have this over here first. And this icon represents a trap which you'd need to have crafted in order to take this interaction. Now, after you take an explore action like I just did and something crops up, you may not like what crops up. And if that's the case in a future action, you can choose to explore yet again. And when you do, you actually stay on the exact same tile that you're on, but you swap out a card. So basically, you'll go ahead and discard this card and again can take from the top of the deck that corresponds to the biome or the bottom of the deck blindly. This represents you exploring further into that biome environment. Just like that, that's another turn done, so we're dropping our dial from 5 down to 4. Now for this turn, I'm going to choose to forego my movement, stay exactly where I am, and I'm actually happy to interact with the card that I currently have here in front of me. I'm going to go after Nature's Gift right here. So on a roll of 0 to 2, I'm going to gain myself some grass. If it's 3 to 5, it's flint. And of course, as I interact here, I have to drop this down by 1. Now, when you do an interact action on a location card, you're going to roll your character die, and you're going to look for the numerical value in black. Now, if you happen to get this icon during the daytime, which it currently is based on the needs tokens up top, then this represents any number you want it to be. So literally, I could choose between the 2 options of resources that Nature's Gift provides, which is pretty good. But if it happens to be at nighttime, that just defaults to 0. Now you'll also notice other icons on the character die, but you can ignore this for the interaction right now because they don't apply. But the yellow one is for successes, which happen during fights when you're looking for additional successes. And then below that, you'll see break icons. And these are going to relate to durability of items used at particular times. I'm currently not using anything that would break, so this doesn't matter. Let's go ahead and make the roll and see where we land. We got ourselves a 3. So Nature's Gift today provides us with some flint. That's not bad at all. Flint is very handy in combination with this resource. You'll see why in a second as we're working towards potentially building a weapon. Now we're going to go ahead and tick down our turn to 3. Now inside the crafting book, there are certainly a number of things we could focus on, stuff that might resist cold like we need to focus on, or potentially building a weapon that provides multiple successes. We actually have 2 of the 3 resources we need to make this happen. We just need to find some twigs. Let's go ahead and move from this location to this location. That worked out perfectly. We're headed to the woodland location. We need twigs, so this is probably the perfect spot to find some. It's worth mentioning for this scenario, there are 3 that are woodland, there are 3 that are grassland, and 2 of others, like wetlands and so on. So this could be the perfect spot. Let's take a look at the top card of this deck, and it is the Spooky Woods. And if we wanted to jump into the Spooky Woods, we actually would gain a twig. It was too good to pass up. Let's jump into it, but here we go. We gain ourselves a twig at this moment, but also there is an enemy in this location. Now, before resolving anything on the face-up card, we'll go ahead and gain that twig resource into our backpack. I've run into a Basilisk, and it's an aggressive one, which is not good, and you can see the backdrop is red, which means it's aggressive. So it's going to roll monster die right now, and hopefully it doesn't hit us. If it does, it's going to show a red icon on the die. Let's see what happens. And in fact, there is a red icon on the die, the claw mark, which is going to inflict some damage to us unless we use a focus to re-roll it. And as you can see, this enemy right here, when it rolls that red icon, it's going to do 1 damage to me. Wilson has 8 health. I could take the health hit down to 7, or I could use a focus token right now to re-roll any character die or any monster die at any time, and a number of them. So I could re-roll this one, hoping for a better result, and if I don't see the red icon, which is a 50-50 on the die roll, there's 3 sides that have the red icon, there's 3 sides that don't, I could actually avoid this 1 point of damage. It's not really that great, so I might actually just go ahead and take the hit. So we went into the woods, we found ourselves a twig, which we were looking for, ironically, perfect timing, and then we ran into an aggressive Basilisk, which was not good. It hit us for 1 damage. We also need to place a marker here in terms of the exploit track. And that's going to be another turn, so we drop ourselves from 3 down to 2, and with only 2 turns remaining in the round, we need to start thinking about what the plan is towards the end of this. Now, before I go ahead and take my move, I do want to create myself a weapon. So going in here, you can see we could create a spear right now. We have 1 of each of these resources, so we could cache all 3 of them in and create that right now. Now, the crafted item we just got takes up our hands, which is shown up here. It also has a durability rating, so when that gets hit, it's going to flip over. We get 3 successes during an attack, and if you flip it over to the other side, it's basically just breaking down. And the next time it takes another durability hit, it is discarded completely, and we lose it. So we do have to be careful there. Now, the actual success rate of the weapon still stays the same. It's just essentially there to show you that durability going down. You can actually repair things. We do have the ability at our base camp to repair an item for 2 essence. So if it does get damaged, we could head back to the portal tile and bring it back up. And for this turn, I'm going to choose to stay right where I am, and we're going to actually attack this Basilisk. So it has 6 dice it's going to roll based on the number that's above the illustration. Now you take that value and you subtract the character's combat value, which is going to be 0 if I didn't have a weapon, but I do have a weapon, and it gets 3 successes, so it's going to reduce the monster dice down to 3. We roll that number of monster dice along with the character die. So let's see how this combat goes. Hopefully we do decent. My character die gives me an extra success based on the yellow icon in the top right, and the 2 orange icons represent the durability of my item I used going down, so I'm going to flip over the card. My spear was looking like this, but as the durability has been hit, it's going to drop down. Now, technically, you resolve the durability of the item flipping over after you resolve all the icons here. So let's go ahead and take a look. So the purple icons here are going to represent things that could happen off the monster. If it triggers, there is actually that icon next to that monster's stats on the location card, but there's a night symbol beside it. And because it's not night, those won't trigger. So you'll see at nighttime, based on that symbol right there, the purple icons would have actually had an effect, throwing additional damage at us, which wouldn't have been good. So I'm glad we can ignore those. These blue are evade symbols. There's 2 evade there. There's a shield break there, but we don't have any shields up, so that's not going to occur. And there's 1 hit for 1 damage. Now, the 2 evade icons that the monster got basically reduce your successes. So I had 3 from the spear, and then I got 1 off my character die. So that's a total of 4 successes for these yellow successes. Minus 2 evade is 2 successes. And so when we have at least 1 success left over, we have won the combat. Now, I could choose at this point in time that I don't want to take the 1 damage that's being doled out from the enemy, the red icon in the center, and I could choose to re-roll that, hoping to get a result that has no damage coming to me. So let's go ahead and flip over this re-roll token here, and we'll hope for the best. Nope, it's still coming through. Now, we could keep doing this with as many of these tokens as we have available, or we could stop, and I think I'll stop there. So our character's going to take another hit of damage. When a monster is defeated, you go ahead and clear the dice out of the way. You're going to go ahead and place this token on top of this area right here, or you could technically place it on top of the illustration if you want as well, but I normally put it up here as instructed by the rulebook. And then you're going to go to the rewards section to determine whether you won the fight or lost the fight based on the top row or the bottom row. In either case, you're going to gain some resources, but if you won the fight, you're going to come out better than you would if you've lost it. And of course, if you lost it, you probably got hit up and beat up pretty bad. Now, as a reward, it's stated I get 4 of the following icon, which matches up with the monster that I just took down, and it comes from this tray here, which I currently don't have on the game table, just off to the side, as it's easier to see based on the lighting. So I gain 4 of these resources, and when you flip them over, they're all the same, but you gain not only the icon that's in the middle, you could also use it for one of these resources up here in the top left as well. Now, the good news is we found one of the resources that the Pig King wants. But that action of fighting is going to wrap up the turn, and it's worth mentioning you're not going to go ahead and drop down the exploit tracker unless you're doing an interact action. A fight action is separate from an interact action, so it does not reduce that track over there. We're going to drop this down to 1. So with one final turn before the round ends out, we should probably get somewhere that's going to provide us some warmth. We should probably head back to the portal tile, which is right next to us. It's worth mentioning that after I killed off this aggressive individual creature here, that this is considered a safe space now, so I can move back into this and not have to worry about an aggressive attack from this enemy in the future. If it had been still there when I came back, I'd still roll that monster die and it would attack me. We're going to go ahead and move into this space right here. And for the action, well, I have to think about if there's anything I want to do, and I think there is. As an action, I can spend food and or resources listed on S03 to place scenario markers on the matching empty spaces. So I'm going to do that right now for the wing. So we're going to go ahead and place a white marker on this top right-hand corner. We need 2 lines completed to move things forward, so if we're looking for 2 full lines, we could make it with just 4 more tracker cubes. So in terms of how I could use these, I could choose to consume the wing as is, and that would have my hunger get a little bit better, but at the cost of sanity for eating the bat wing, or I could actually use this wing as one of the 2 ingredients shown here, not both of them. Right now I'm going to do a free action for cooking. We're going to use 1 for filler and 1 for meat, and that's going to allow me to gain some food. Now in the demo version, there's 3 different food items we can cook and get into a cookable form. In the final version, there'll be more beyond that, and 6 will usually be the standard unless a scenario kind of throws a wrench into that equation. You can see the 2 ingredients I just used right here are one of 2 different ways to create this food item. So we're cooking up some meatballs, and that's going to provide us with some relief from hunger by 3, but at the cost of 1 sanity. It's a decent idea to stock up on food right now because we know when we get to the needs tokens, they're going to have us drop our hunger by 2, so this food will help out. Now, I'd love nothing more than at the home base right now to be able to repair an item using 2 essence. Because I have a damaged one right now, I can still use it one more time, but it's at risk of potentially being broken and thrown away, and I'd love to repair it to get more uses out of it in the future, but it costs a full action, and I don't have one. That is the last turn of this round, so we're moving on to the next phase. Now, as you'll see on the round structure here, the shadow phase says to resolve all effects of all revealed shadow creatures. There currently isn't any because our sanity has been kept in check. We now move on to phase number 4, which is our daily needs phase, and we're going to take a look at the leftmost tile here, and it tells us we're going to be dropping our hunger by 2 and our sanity by 1. The token is also going to come out of the tray as well. So I've already taken 2 hits to health. Now I'm taking 2 hits to my hunger, which isn't good. That's going to drop us down to 6, and sanity is going to slip down to 7. We're now moving on to the weather phase, phase number 5, and that's going to be up here. I'm just going to move this out of the way for the time being. It says here, place one of these defeated monster tokens on all neutral monsters. So something is out in the wild destroying all the friendly neutral creatures. Now we take a look at the weather card and we look at the bottom left-hand corner and we are on the left-hand side of the storm token here. So we only have to worry about the 2 freezing icons. But if we don't do anything to mitigate this at all, we're going to go into this column with 2, which is ×3 of whatever's over here. So that's going to be a hit of 3 health and 3 hunger, which I do not want to take. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to come over to our home base and we're going to use some essence. As you can see on the home base, when we're in the weather phase, we can spend 3 essence, and all characters on the portal map tile are going to have some resistance, and the one we really care about right now is freezing, so we're definitely going to spend this. It's costly, but I think it's worth it. So now instead of taking 3 health hits and 3 hunger hits, we're only going to take 1 health hit and 1 hunger hit. I like that a lot better. So we'll drop our health down to 5, which isn't so great, and we'll also drop our hunger down by 1, which puts us at 5 as well, and we're now at icons on both of these. And for those that are curious about the swirl icons, they tie back to when your character is defeated. So when you're defeated the first time, you're not out. You come back, you get revived, but you have less of everything you had from the very beginning, and you would mark all of your stats starting at those swirl icons. And then if you get defeated a second time, then you lose. Now, the final thing to resolve is in the bottom right-hand corner of the weather card. There's a whole bunch of food and an icon spoiling. What does that mean? It's called a mass spoil. So you discard all your food and break all items with the spoil durability. Now, in this case, I don't have to worry about that on my spear because I don't have that on the spear, which is good, but it's going to impact my food. Now, before we do the mass spoil, you are allowed to consume any food you have. So the great news is my maximum hunger can be at 8, and I'm currently at 5. So if I consume this food right now, I go right back up to 8, which is awesome for me, but I do lose 1 sanity. So it's going to tick me down to seeing some shadowy creatures in the future, but at least I get to use the food I created before it goes to spoil. So in the end, nothing spoils for me, but you can see that if you were stockpiling a bunch of food, that icon would certainly mess with you. Now, instead of a mass spoil icon, you might just run into a simple spoil, which essentially will indicate the number of food that you're going to have to lose. But a mass spoil is really nasty. And we're now done with the weather phase, and we can jump from that phase to the final scenario-based events phase. So this is where we check to see if the number of completed rows is fewer or equal to the number of characters at 1, and it definitely is, so we're going to increment ourselves up the track by 1 position. And that, my friends, is an entire first round of play. We're not going to go ahead and start round number 2, but this time we actually get to see the preparation phase in round 2. Now, right underneath the phase 1 icon is a bunch of icons to remind you what happens during the preparation phase, but you can also reference the reference card for it, like drawing a new weather card, reviving defeated characters, refreshing your activation tokens, which you won't have to do when you're playing true solo, refreshing your focus, resolving any character abilities you want to resolve, removing the leftmost daily needs tile from the game, which I've already gone ahead and done preemptively, and then resetting the action tracker to get into the next round. Let's start by seeing what kind of weather we're going to be dealing with in round number 2. Now this weather card looks really interesting. It says glaciers. Each character with a pickaxe may break it to gain specific resources mentioned. Pretty awesome. Looks like this is all the exact same as it was last time right here in terms of even the icons and where they are storm related. And then on the far right hand side, you'll see a growth icon. That ties to the exploitation of a location. So remember the tracker cube that starts to go down as you interact more and more doing things on a card. Well, the growth symbol is going to bring everything back on that track to the very top across everything in the game world. Now, I've skipped a couple of steps because they don't apply right now in the preparation phase, but focus refresh does because we used 1 focus. We still have 2. We refresh right now based on where we're currently at on the hunger track based on the highest threshold for these refresh tokens. So down here, if we were all the way down to 4, for instance, we'd only be refreshing 1 token, but we're all the way at 8, so we actually get 3, but we only used 1 anyway, so that 1 just comes back. But this just ties into the fact that when I was doing the rerolling for the 1 damage that I had, I probably should have used all 3 of the rerolls to get rid of that damage. Now, something positive is going to happen in terms of resisting freezing because at this point, our character's beard is going to grow, going up from 0 to 1, which means we have a passive -1 to freezing. As I mentioned before, we remove the leftmost needs tile, but I've already done this preemptively. In the future, I'll do it at this time frame going forward. And last but not least, we reset the action tracker, again taking a look at the leftmost needs tile to see whether it's night or day, and it's actually going to be night. And now on to round 2's action phase. Now, before we dive into round number 2's actions for Wilson, I'm going to do something retroactively based on a note I put on screen in round number 1 when we were going up against this creature right here. I rolled the incorrect amount of monster dice. What should have happened is when you're determining how many monster dice are to be rolled, you always first look at the value of what is right here for the combat value of the monster, but you're going to subtract how much of that icon you have across the weapon you're using and other elements of gameplay. But currently right now for my character, I don't have any character combat value. I don't have that icon across anything, so the default is 0 in my case, which means the monster would have been able to roll all 6 of its dice against me, which is pretty brutal. Now, the one thing I would have gotten off the spear would have been 3 successes, but I treated that at the time like it was character's combat value. So I actually used the 3 to knock down the number of 6 dice it had to 3, which was incorrect. So it should actually be rolling an additional 3 dice on top of it. The only thing I had going into this was the 3 successes, and I did roll 1 additional one, so I had 4, but we're going to roll these 3 dice right now and see what else is coming my way, because this thing might try to evade me. So let's go ahead and roll this. And you'll also remember when I was doing that combat, I used 1 focus token, but I still had 2 others. So if I need to use some rerolls, I will certainly do so. Let's go ahead and roll these dice. I want to make sure it's a fair fight, and let's see what happens here. So the purple one is great because it means absolutely nothing. This is going to be an evade, and this one allows me to actually choose if I want it to be an evade or a hit against me. So as of right now, if I chose for this die, the monster die, to be an evade, I'd have 4 evades from the monster, which would match how many successes that I have, the 3 and the 1 from the die here, which would mean I would end up losing the combat and not actually gaining the top level rewards. So I want to avoid that. So what I'll do is I'll take the hit on the other side that's going to cause me to take 1 damage. And this ensures the combat I had before was done correctly, and we've dropped ourselves down to 4. That's going to square things up from round 1's combat, so hopefully that all makes sense. Essentially think of combat as 2 layers. The first layer is your combat value layer, where you're essentially determining how many dice the monster's going to be rolling, and you'll always be rolling 1 as your character no matter what, but your character's combat value total, the sword icon total that you have, will take away from the monster's dice pool. So that's huge, and then once you roll, you're hoping not to see a lot of evades, because the evade icons from the enemy are going to take away the successes that you have, and those successes come from either your character die or potentially other items and things you have. So there's kind of 2 layers to combat, but they resolve very quickly, and I like that a lot. Let's head north and see what we can find. We found a wetlands biome. I don't really know if I want to be searching here. These enemies are typically tougher than some of the other environments, and I'm not really strong enough yet this early in the game, and I've already found 2 of the hardest places. I think I'll probably not explore at this point in time. I'll take a look really quickly, though, at the card for the wetlands and see if it's of interest. This is the top card of that area, and that icon would give me some fireflies, which actually would be pretty awesome, because obviously that's going to lean towards the light side of the equation, and it looks like there's even more of them in that area. So very, very tempting, but I just don't feel like I'm ready for that yet, and after taking a number of hits, I'm currently at 4 health, I don't feel like it's a good idea to head here. So I'm deciding not to take an action at this biome, and we're going to go ahead and take the dial down by 1. We have 5 remaining. Let's head west. We found the drylands biome, so this could be interesting. Let's take a look at the top card. If we want to draw the top card, it's going to be rocky land. It would give us some flint and potentially some other things at this location, or we could blindly go from the bottom of the deck. I decided to go for it, and look what we found, an aggressive monster. This monster is called a tall bird, and we do gain the resource flint right away because of the explore action. So we'll go ahead and slot that in the backpack slot. And while we're here, I'll talk to you about this, because remember I was talking about round number 1 near the end, after it kind of got broken up by its durability after the fight, that I wanted to get back to our home base in order to repair an item. Well, I've been thinking that I might want to hold off for this usage right here rather than trying to repair the item, as this might provide me enough benefit to kind of keep me at bay from some of the other nasty weather effects. So for now, I'm risking it, as you can tell. Now, when a hostile creature shows up, you have to roll a monster die. So we're going to go ahead and roll a monster die and see what kind of fun is coming our way. This is one of the pleasures of exploring and finding one of these individual creatures. So we got ourselves, it looks like, the claw icon to shield break. Now check this out, for this monster, even though it rolled a claw icon, you can see up here a claw would normally give me 3 damage, but underneath of it, it says at nighttime, it's going to be -1 of those claw icons, which means, if I'm understanding correctly, even though it rolled this icon, because it is night, I'm not going to get hit. You simply reference your leftmost needs token, it'll tell you whether it's night or day. In this case, it's night, so I'm assuming no damage coming through. That's a huge relief. We'll place a marker on the exploit track. And that's another turn down, so we'll drop our dial down to 4. So it appears that it's a great time to be in this location at this moment because this monster will not be hitting me for any damage, because on the monster die, there is only ever one of those red icons, which gets taken away at this time of day. So in other words, I should be able to interact with either of these without having to deal with any hostile attacks from this aggressive enemy. So we could choose to interact over here with the gold nugget, trying to pick up either flint or gold, or we could go over for the crushed explorer, but we would need to have a specific item created, the pickaxe, in order to do that, which I don't have. So we could go here. For our action, let's go ahead and interact with a gold nugget and see what we can pick up. I'm hoping to grab flint, actually, as I can use this to enhance my weapon with some other materials that I have. So we're going to go ahead and make the roll. We're also going to roll for a hostile monster, but we know if it rolls the red claw symbol, it's just going to be taken away during this time of the night. So we really don't have much to deal with there. And actually, nothing happened anyway. I just accidentally knocked it over. It was an evade anyway. We got ourselves a 4. That is going to be a flint resource. All right, so here's what I'm thinking. I got myself a second flint resource, and there is something I could craft that would be really nice. Now, this is what I'm eyeing from the craft book, and I think it's a great upgrade. It's not a huge one, but it's going to be beneficial in 2 ways. So first off, I have to discard my spear, which I have right here, and it doesn't matter if it's at full durability or half durability. You just have to have it, but then you get rid of it in order to satisfy this, plus the 2 flint I have here, and it's going to gain me this card at full durability. So that's one of the benefits to upgrading a card that's already been damaged a bit. You get the new card at full. So it's a strategic option there to not go ahead, for instance, and repair it at the base to then go ahead later and upgrade it. In this case, I'm kind of getting that twofold benefit of getting this character combat value bump, which I don't have here whatsoever on the spear, and I'm also getting this at full durability. So we're going to go ahead and toss this, put this into play, and remove the 2 flint, and I'm very happy about that free action. That's going to be another turn in the book, so we drop ourselves down to 3. Now, the question here is, do we want to stay where we currently are and potentially fight with this creature that is here, or do we want to just leave? Now, this creature hits really hard, and so if I was to use the weapon I just crafted against it, it would reduce its dice coming in to 4, from 5 minus the 1 I have off of my weapon. It would bring in 4 monster dice, but if it even lands a single one of those claw icons, and of course, 1 would be taken away at night, which is nice, but even if I got 2, let's say, it's going to be hitting me for 3 damage, and that's substantial when I only have 4 health remaining. I don't think it's very wise to do this. I do have focus tokens, which I could roll and hope to kind of avoid a bunch, but if those rerolls didn't work out for me, that could be the end of me. This is a survival game, so we don't want to take too many risks, but the right risks are definitely worth it in some cases. So let's go ahead and decide to move away from this space for now. I think we've done enough here. We're going to head down to this location here and see if we want to explore it. We also don't want to forget to reduce the exploit marker from the area we interacted in by 1, because again, once it gets down to that bottom value, you can no longer mess around in that location interacting. Now, the top card of this exact same biome location is this one right here. So we could choose to take this, which will give me some flint, and there's potential for other things there, or we could go blind from the bottom of the deck. I decided to go with the top card in what was known, so we're going to gain some flint, and we also found a buzzard here. The buzzard is not aggressive, which is nice. We'll place this into the backpack. To wrap up the explore action, we're going to go ahead and place a marker in this track. That's going to do it, and another turn gone. Now, to create a pickaxe that's necessary to do this interaction, we need to have flint, which we have, and we need to have sticks, which we do not have. But we could get sticks from here. But here's the thing. I'm also thinking about using sticks potentially to get some light going and warmth in our camp in order to offset the needs tile that's coming at us in the near future. So instead of making a pickaxe, it's probably better to keep that stick to make a fire. So let's go ahead and interact down here. We don't have to worry again about this creature because it's neutral, and we'll see what we get from this area. Now, no matter what we roll on this die, we're going to gain that first ingredient, which is beneficial in cooking any of the 3 prepared meals that we could potentially use. And one that I really need to get is one that will bump up my health, but that's going to be tough to actually do because we need 2 of those ingredients, plus one that looks like almost a radish, if I'm not mistaken. So we need to find that. 2 of those and a radish, and that will allow us to create some type of a salad that would give us 2 health back and a little bit more on our hunger, just 1. Don't need the hunger, but I definitely need some health back, and that would certainly help. But here's the thing, when I roll this die, a 4 and a 5 is all that's going to provide me the stick. So I'm guaranteed the cooking ingredient, I'm not guaranteed the stick. So here we go, and we also have to take down the fact we're exploiting this environment here. Let's see what happens. We got ourselves, that is No. So during the daytime, that would actually be a great result. That would be anything I want. I could pick 4 or 5, but because it's nighttime, it ends up being a 1, which means I get absolutely nothing off of it. I guess it's not absolutely nothing. I do get this, but here's the thing. I could choose right now to use a focus token to re-roll that, and I probably should. I say we do it. Let's go ahead and use a focus token right now, and we're going to go ahead and re-roll the die. Come on, I want to see a 4 or 5. There we go. So it did cost 1 focus token, but it was worth it in order to make sure that we get this ingredient always, but also a twig or stick as well. That's awesome. So both those resources going in the backpack. Now, I've only got one more turn for this round, but going to the home base would prevent all of the nastiness that's going to come at us in terms of the need for light or warmth. We're going to have to make sure that we have 2. The stick can provide 2 from a campfire at only the home base right now. And then also on the freezing resistance side, I'm able to get that from my beard for 1, but an additional 1 if I spend essence when I'm at the home base. So in order to cover the bases, I'm going to head back to the home base to make sure I can survive through to the next round. That's going to do it for my actions phase. We now move on to the shadow phase, which would have us revealing shadow cards per how things are going with our sanity. But our sanity's been doing really well. Once we eventually get down to the lower tiers of things, we'll be drawing shadow cards, which will be on us. And they're another type of enemy that we can actually go after. And again, if we kill off some of those, they can provide some of the essence we need in order to boost our home base back up. So as I just mentioned, nothing for the shadow phase, but we do have the needs phase to resolve, the daily needs phase. Looking at this one right here, these are the things that are going to hit us. Now, as you can see right now on my home base, I've got myself a campfire here, and during this needs phase, I can use a stick to generate 2 light, which would offset the -2 that's going to be throwing at us. So I'm definitely going to use that stick I just got to light up the fire and keep ourselves warm. Now, 3 hunger is going to hit us right now, dropping us from 8 all the way down to 5, which is a pretty good smack. And then the next one here is our sanity is going to drop down by 1. We now move on to the weather phase, which essentially is this card up here. It says each character with a pickaxe can break something right now, breaking that item to gain items or resources above that are listed. Unfortunately, I didn't have that created. I was more focused on keeping myself warm and lit up to avoid any damage that would happen. And I actually didn't mention how nasty it can be if you do not meet the light requirements. When you have light requirements in your daily needs, if you do not meet the light requirements, for every point you do not meet, your character takes 5 damage, which is insanely high. So the light requirement is extremely important, and that's the reason why I was going to use focus tokens until I bled through all of them if I needed to get that stick in my hands to be able to get the fire up, because I knew I needed to satisfy that. And you can see going into the next tile for the next round, it gets even more problematic at 3. As of right now, our needs tile is still on the left-hand side of the storm, so we're dealing with 2 freezing icons that we have to try and resist. Now, as I mentioned before, down at the very bottom here, for each point he has on the beard length, he's going to gain a passive -1. So he's automatically, with his beard length just starting to grow, got enough to cover 1 of those 2 points. So I've covered one of the 2 freezing icons up here for weather. I could let the other one slip through, and then the column, it would only multiply by the bottom 1 because I only let 1 icon through, so the bottom position. So it'd just be 1 health and 1 hunger being a hit against us. Or I could decide to spend the last 3 essence I have in my home base to get inside the tent in order to make sure during the weather here that we have a little bit of freezing resistance, the second one, which will allow me to skirt past any kind of detrimental things. And I'm going to go ahead and do that, although now I have absolutely no essence at camp. The only way to recharge my home base in terms of essence is to get some shadowy creatures attached to me, which would mean my sanity's going to have to start slipping a whole lot faster. So a little bad off the weather card and a little good. We missed out on the opportunity to get some cool resources, but we did avoid any of the nastiness from the weather itself. Now we're going to go ahead and have some growth occur across all the exploit tracks. They're going to all go to the top position. So all the biome locations that have a marker in their exploit track will all go to the very top of their tracks, matching the icon you saw on the weather card. That's going to do it for the weather phase. Now on to the final phase, which is the scenario phase, going back to our scenario cards. The Pig King's probably not really happy with us. We didn't bring back any ingredients that it wanted to see, and we're not completing any more lines at this point. That's also not good. So because the number of lines that are completed is fewer or equal to the number of characters, definitely in our case, then this is going to continue to move up the track. Into round number 3 we go with the preparation phase. We're going to go ahead and get this marker to this very first phase, and we're going to go ahead and discard the weather card we currently have here and draw up a new one and see what we get. The Unbroken. So we have a passive thing here that each character with 6 or more health is going to gain 2 sanity back, which is good. And then below here, it says we have more to deal with in terms of requirements, as we're going to be on the left-hand side of the storm still, but more to focus on. So wetness, the water icon across the top, is going to affect our sanity and also have to deal with spoiling, which is not going to be good. And then below, we've already seen the freezing before, affecting our health and our hunger. So each one of these things that can come in on these weather cards affects different combinations of aspects of your character, which all of them really result in bad things. We go ahead now and refresh our focus, and thank goodness at least we're above the 1 focus token here. We're at 5, so that means we get to replenish the 1 token we had. If we had to spend all 3, then we actually are well below that at this point. We'd only be able to ever refresh 1 at this point. Now keep in mind, before your focus refreshes, you can always go ahead and consume some ingredients or things you have in order to kind of bolster things up, but some of the things you have might have negative effects, like taking a hit on your sanity, which actually may not be all that bad. If I was to eat this batwing, it would drop me down by 1, but you can see it's not enough to get me down to the point where I actually see one of those little shadowy figures. So at this point, I'm not going to do that, and you also have this one here at half of your hunger. Now our character's beard continues to grow, but you can see it's going from a 1 to a 1, so it hasn't grown to the next level yet, but the next time it increases, it's going to give us another passive resistance to freezing, so it would be a -2 at that point. Right now we're still at the -1, which is still decent because based on the unbroken weather card we have, and us being on the left-hand side of the storm, we only need 1 right now. So we actually have it with our beard currently, so we can focus on the wetness aspect. We now remove the leftmost needs tile from this board, and if there is no needs tile to remove, we've lost the game. And for round number 3, as we can see from the needs tile, we're on the left-hand side of the storm still, and it is night. So we're going to go ahead and reset our turns back to 6. Now, as we go inside the craft book, there's a number of items that could help us with wetness. We got this one here, reduction of 1, this one here, reduction of 1, and this is a hand versus a head item, so we can actually take both of these, and that would actually be what we need. But we need all these resources to make it happen. Not hard resources to find necessarily, but quite a few of them inside of a 6-turn round. Now, it's also worth mentioning this is a prototype, so it's limited in terms of how many different items are available. In the final version, there'll be a lot more to craft than this, but you also see one that's a little bit more effective over here. Once we build the regular hat, you can then add another ingredient to it or another resource to it by tossing that previous hat, and then you get yourself a fully covered hat that is going to deal 2 to the wetness factor, which will be huge. But we're not going to focus on that right now because I don't even know where to get this from, and that's the thing. As you go through the game, you're going to find icons. You have no idea where those come from, and sometimes you're going to have to take out creatures in the game world to flip over their tokens to see what they actually provide. And if you've played the video game, you're going to have a leg up for sure, because you'll know some of the types of things that certain creatures are going to drop and certain actions are going to provide you. But again, there's probably some surprise in there as well. For my first turn, let's be bold and head back to this location here where I'm going to actually try and take out this buzzard. Now, normally the buzzard would have 4 monster dice coming in based on its combat value, but I'm using this weapon, and that's going to reduce its monster dice pool by 1, which means it's going to have just 3 going in, and I have my character die as well on top of that. Let's go ahead and roll. I have 3 successes going in. We need to have at least 1 success to win the fight, but I want to try and obviously avoid any damage because I don't have a lot of capacity to take damage, so I might be using my focus tokens to re-roll here. Let's see how this goes. This is a great roll because this die did not land anything that hurt the durability of my weapon, which is awesome. This means pretty much nothing because I have so many successes. I have 3. I'm good right now. Now, the only kicker here is I could take that 2 damage, and that would allow me to kill the thing and kind of get the best case scenario. But here's the worry. If I re-roll this with a focus token and it happens to land on an evade, it's going to successfully evade me because I've only got 3 successes. And that's risky. That's because I didn't get an extra success off my character die. So the question is, do I want to risk it? Now, I might get a roll that lands like this, and that would allow me to skirt by and be okay. But again, that's a 1 out of 6 roll. The other option too, well, there's a lot of hits in there. Yeah, so the chance of that actually landing the way I want it to land is probably not going to happen. And I just set that die back to what it was originally before I went into my hypothetical talk there, which had just 1 shield hit, but it doesn't matter in this case whatsoever because there's no armor as part of this equation. So the thing is, I could take this hit. I don't like it because it's going to bring me down to just 2 health left, and that does terrify me, but I think I kind of have to do it in order to keep pushing through. The hardest thing about it is that I could waste the focus token and potentially see the red icon again. If I get the evade symbol and I run out of focus tokens rolling to try to avoid the combat symbols, then I get into a situation where I don't even get the full benefit. But I mean, technically, even if I lose the battle, I still do get one of each of these resources, which isn't bad. It's not bad, but it's not, as good as actually winning. Oh, it's so tough. I don't know which way I should go here. I'm going to choose to actually use a focus token and try to avoid that hit, because you know what? Even if I go with the loss from it evading me, I still get something off it, just not as much as I wanted, and I don't affect my health. So let's go ahead and roll a focus token, or I should say use a focus token to re-roll this, and maybe if we get an evade, we'll just stick with that. We didn't. I don't still want to see that, so I'm going to use another focus token. Man, I really hope this is worth what I'm doing. Oh my gosh, I got exactly what I wanted to see. That is sweet. Okay, so now I get the success without the damage. That makes me so happy. That was the best possible outcome I could have gotten. The fact that I didn't have any durability issues with my weapon, the enemy wasn't able to evade, I had the successes that I needed to take it out cleanly and no damage. Awesome. So I'm getting the top result ×2 of both of these. So I got 2 of these and 2 of these. And when you flip over the ones that come from the enemies, you never know what you're going to get on the other side. In this case, I got 2 different resources. This is great because I already have one of those. And now I've got 2 of the 3 ingredients. With 2 of these, I've got the ability to be 1 ingredient away from creating a salad that would provide me a 2 health bump, which I definitely need. We need to find that radish though, and we still haven't found it yet. But we also got some meat over here, which is pretty good. It'll provide some hunger, or I should say it should deal with some hunger, but it will take hits to my sanity. I'm curious to see what the heck this feather is going to do for me. Now, when you take a look at a resource like this, it'll show you the resource it is, but it'll also show you what it can be used for instead. You can also use this as a twig. You can also use this as a ball of yarn. So here's a look at what my backpack currently looks like. So now you head inside the craft book, and again, this is just a very small snippet of what is going to be in the final version of the game, but you can start to see some of the crafting items that I have here, like yarn down below. But check this out on the next page. You can see a number of other things to be built, like this fishing rod here with a twig, for instance, with the yarn. If we keep on going through, you can see this Band-Aid, which looks awesome. So this looks like it could come from potentially honey, maybe. I don't know for sure, but if yarn and honey can be combined, you get a bandage, and then that can give you 4 health back. That is something that would certainly be helpful. Anyway, lots to think about now, but let's go ahead and remove some things. We obviously took a turn there, so we're going to drop ourselves down to 5 on the dial, and this creature has been removed and killed off. Now, in order to get some wetness protection, I need some grass and sticks. So what I might do is focus on interacting here for my next turn. I think that makes sense. Let's go ahead and do it. So we'll drop this down by 1. We're going to roll the die. We don't have to worry about anything in there in terms of enemies. Let's see what we get off the die. It's a 3, so we're not going to get the twig. So the question is, do I want to use a focus right now to try to get it? I don't know. It's my last one. It's a survival game. Let's take the risk and use the last focus token. Hopefully this works out. It's on camera, so here's hoping it's a good result. And it's not. It's nighttime. That's not going to work for us. So we're just going to take this one here and throw it into our backpack. That's okay, but not exactly great. Now, I know a lot of you are probably saying, well, you can get a twig off the feather instead. Well, yes, but that is the most common base thing you could potentially use the feather for. Instead, using it for yarn is a much more rare resource that can allow you to build and craft some things that are more interesting. So I want to kind of keep that for that use in yarn. For the next turn, let's go ahead and move up north and see what we find. We found ourselves a woodland area. Let's go ahead and take a look at the top card and see what we potentially get. Interesting. I'm not sure what this resource is all about. This looks like a recipe or an ingredient to a recipe. I instead decided to take the card from the bottom of the deck, so we're going to be gaining a twig, which worked out nicely. However, it appears we found ourselves an aggressive spider at 4. So being that it's hostile and we just explored, we're going to go ahead and roll a die and see what kind of pain is coming our way. And it's going to be a choice of evade or a hit. I'm certainly going to take the evade. That's another explore action done, and another turn done as well. We need to really find some grass. We need to find this resource right here in order to try to get to the point where we can build ourselves something we can wear for the wetness. Now, overall, we have 3 more biome locations we can check out, but something I haven't done at this point yet is to explore the same location I've already been in yet again. If you choose to explore the same location you're already inside of, you literally remove the explore card that's in the biome you're in and move on to the next area within that location. So you essentially think of each of these biomes as almost like an entire area to explore, and as you continue to take the explore action, you go through the cards one by one, moving to different areas within that biome. So if you don't like what you see, you can move on. So going into this next turn, instead of moving a whole bunch of turns further away to try to get to grasslands areas, let's just continue to look in this woodland area and hope to stumble across grass eventually. So we're going to go ahead right now and not move during this turn, and we're going to explore, discarding the card that's here. I'm still not really interested in the top card of the forest deck. Let's go to the bottom, and I pulled Graveyard. Got some flint to start things off. Now, when I take this flint, that is going to fill up the last slot in my backpack. At this point, I have 10 inside my backpack. We found ourselves an aggressive spider, so I've got another roll coming at me. The hostility roll has 1 die coming at me. Let's see what happens, and it ends up not doing anything. Awesome. So we got an interesting situation going on here. We have a spider in this location, but we've also found a location that provides grass every time we interact with it. That is certainly a good thing. Now, the bad thing is we burned all of our focus previously, so if we go into this battle and it hits us, it could potentially kill us depending on what it rolls off as dice, and it gets 4 minus the 1 off of my weapon that I would use for my character combat value, but 3 dice could easily land 2 hits, and those 2 hits could take me out, so it may not be worth trying to fight this spider. However, what we could do is just try to interact with something else here. We would just take a hostility roll of 1 single die, which we'd be able to handle. Now, the only thing we're missing here is the shovel, which we would need to craft in order to go after the lonely grave, to dig it up. The thing is, you need to have 2 twigs and use a flint. And we have 2 flint and 1 twig, so we don't even have enough to make our shovel to go after the grass that we would automatically get from there. It's also worth mentioning, when you explore from one location to the next, you always reset the tracker to the middle. It was already on the middle anyway, but just in case this happened to be up here, when we went to the next space, next explore action, next card, you'd move that to the middle, just so you're aware. Now, before I go any further and decide what I want to do with my turn, we could take a free action right now in order to try to use some of these ingredients for cooking in order to kind of free up some space in our backpack. So looking at the cooking options, these are the 3 things we could potentially create, and you can see up on the boards above, it'll show 2 rows of different combinations of ingredients you can use in order to get the token below. So I'm going to cache these 3 in right now, which line up with the bottom row here of this one, and we'll take this token. Now, the cooking was a free action, and we put that new cooking item inside our backpack. The ingredients went out. We opened up 2 spaces in the backpack. It's also worth mentioning that I did do the explore action here, and when I did it, I haven't ticked down the dial yet, so we're going to go ahead and drop that down to 2. Now, unfortunately, I just remembered that for this round, we need to generate 3 light. And in order to do that, I'm going to need to get back to this home base, and I'm going to have to burn twigs and getting 2 light for each twig. And I only have 1 twig plus the feather, which can be used as a twig, which means I'd have to burn both of those to generate 4 light just to keep myself away from a massive 5 damage hit. So we're going to have to head back with our final 2 turns and just get there. However, we'll stop along the way here at this location after a move, and we're going to go ahead and try this. Now, I have no focus to reroll, but if I land a 4 or 5, I can save my feather at least. So let's see if that pans out. No, it did not. So in a desperate attempt to survive another day, we're going to go ahead and run back to our base with our final turn. And when we're there, we have no ingredients whatsoever that we can actually provide off to the Pig King, unfortunately. I do know where 1 is. There's 1 at a forest location. So if we had to continue to explore here, we would have actually gained this one, which we can see in the top card is one of the ones actually next to the cube that I currently have. We can come back to a forest location in the future and get this from either here or here, which is nearby. But I'm more concerned about making sure we can generate enough light. So I needed to get back with these 2 that I have in my backpack, the feather and the stick, to generate that to keep us alive. Because if I take a 5 damage hit, this thing is over. The actions for round 3 are done. On to the shadow phase for round 3, and this is going to have nothing for us because our sanity is intact still, and we are not going to get any shadow enemies on us. If our sanity starts to slip further, we have risk of actually getting some, which could be a benefit depending on if we want to try and gain some more essence for our base. But for now, we'll slip past this to the needs tile. The needs tile is at night. It is going to be 3 light generation we need, so we're going to go ahead and use a stick here at the fire of our base as we've seen before. The awesome part about this is it costs no essence in order to do this. So a stick will generate 2 light, and we'll unfortunately have to burn our feather, which is a big cost for us because it could have been yarn, in order to generate 2 more light just to make it through this. I am glad I killed that buzzard though, because otherwise I'd be in big trouble. Next up, we're going to lose 3 hunger, and we're going to go insane by 1. The needs tile now tells Wilson to lose 3 hunger. We're going to go ahead and spend this right now, consuming it to deal with the 3. So that's perfect, but we have to lose a sanity to do it. So we'll drop ourselves down by 1. The needs tile now tells us to drop things down by 1 for our sanity. So we're going to drop down to 3, and that's going to push us past the first single icon for a shadow creature, which means we draw the very first card and it comes at us. And here's the very first shadow creature, which we can choose to go after in the future, and this is the effect that's going to happen when the shadow phase comes around in the future. So again, this is not going to trigger until the shadow phase comes around, and as this was resolved and given to us during the needs tile phase, this does not resolve right now. It just simply goes next to our character dashboard. We're now moving to the weather phase, and unfortunately that's going to have each character with 6 or more health, which we are not part of that equation because I was unable to get that healing. We don't get a benefit of +2 on our sanity, unfortunately. But now we have to go ahead and deal with this, and we have no resistance whatsoever to wetness. So that's going to be 2 icons as we're on the left-hand side of the storm, and that's going to be ×3, and it's going to be affecting our sanity and also food. So our sanity is going to drop from 3 all the way down to 0, which is going to have more shadow creatures coming at us. So essentially now with 3 shadow cards pulled, 1 for each level, we have a level 1, we have a level 2, and we have a level 3. How you actually stack them is like this, and you'll see that the artwork actually blends together on top of itself, but you'll see if you stopped at 1 and 2, level 1 will just have you resolving in the shadow phase something very simplistic, like the spoiling of certain things. This one here will tell you to roll 2 monster dice, so you're doing both of these when the shadow phase comes around the next time, and then nastiness will happen. You can use items and stuff like that to try to negate things, but then the third one comes and it layers on top, so you still roll the 2 monster dice, but now things are even worse in terms of what happens over here. So it's just a full-on pain at this point. But remember, as an action on your turn, you can choose to fight the shadow creature, and of course there's rewards that can come out of that, like I was talking about before, what will allow you to get essence back on your home base and also increase your sanity back up. So while things are looking grim, we're still pushing forward, and Wilson has his beard, and so his length at 1 gives him a passive -1 resistance to freezing. So because we're on the left-hand side of the storm there, we are okay. We're not taking any health hit. We're not taking any hunger hit. Last but not least, this icon, for the first time we're seeing it, respawns all the monsters in the game world. So whether you wanted it to happen or not, they're all coming back, and it actually could be good because we could head down here to the grasslands where the bee is, and that might be one of the ingredients we need over here, along with something else I know I can get at the woodland to create one of the rows, if we can even get that far. So all the enemies are back in action. That's the weather phase done. We're moving on to the scenario card. Now looking at the scenario cards right now, we've got the 1 marker up here for the 1 ingredient we got in round number 1, if I'm not mistaken. This one here I know is on the top of the forest deck right now. So we just need to explore in the forest and I can automatically get that. That's easy. This one in the bottom right, I think it comes from this creature here. I think, but I'm not 100% certain. But at least now we have the chance to go after it. Maybe. More importantly, though, we do not have the required lines completed that the scenario card talks about, so this is going to move up 1 more space. We are 1 away from triggering this line here that says to discard all other revealed scenario cards, including S02, and we reveal S06, and I'm not looking forward to that. It probably isn't good. That's round number 3 in the books, and that's going to wrap up part number 1 of Don't Starve the Board Game, coming from Glass Cannon Unplugged. This is landing on Kickstarter very, very soon as of the release of this video. If you want to find out more information on the game, you can find the link to the campaign in the pinned comment and video description. I'd love to hear your feedback in the comments down below, what you think about this one. Are you intrigued and interested in it? There's probably a lot of you out there that love the IP of the game and are interested to see how this adapts to the tabletop. It looks looks like it's very streamlined in its combat, in its crafting, and how the turns flow. I believe as a true solo player, if someone wanted to control just a single character like I am here, you're able to move through the game at a very quick pace, and there's not a lot of spots where the game bogs down, which I really appreciate. So it seems to flow really nicely, and there's a lot of crafting options even in this prototype, so I can't wait to see what the final version of the game looks like when everything is available for it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope this was helpful for you, and as always, keep on rolling solo.